Boy, the Clinton campaign is really going after Bernie Sanders. This has just happened the past few days, and it's because Sanders has not only closed the gap in the caucus state of Iowa, but he's also gotten ahead of Hillary apparently in the primary state of New Hampshire. So the Clinton gang has decided to bring out the heavy artillery through surrogates. I mean, she's saying some pretty weird stuff herself, but through surrogates, they're now saying that Bernie Sanders, they're implying that he's a racist and only interested in white people. And already, according to The Guardian of the UK, which I'm going to share with you in a moment, they have been putting together, the Clinton campaign has been putting together as much information as they can get together that would link Bernie Sanders with Soviet communism. Hillary Clinton is going to be president of the United States in 2016, or the goddamn planet is going to crack into about 9 pieces. I mean, that's apparently what they've decided. I can remember when we lived in Chicago, and David Brock came out with a piece in Esquire magazine, Confessions of a Right-Wing Hitman. And David Brock was one of the people who derailed any attempt by Anita Hill to, as a matter of fact, he tried to destroy Anita Hill, his words, Anita Hill's attempt to show that Clarence Thomas, who's now Supreme Court Justice, had no business being on the Supreme Court whatsoever because he was a racist, he was a sexist, he was a woman hater, he was arrogant, I mean, just completely. He had put the moves on her so many times that it was hard to keep track. And part of Clarence Thomas's defense was that she followed him to a couple of jobs. And whether or not that was the smartest thing for Anita Hill to do, to have done, is arguable. But she was trying to work her way up through the bureaucracy, federal bureaucracy. And I'm not going to rehash the Anita Hill Clarence Thomas thing right here or right now. But David Brock was one of the people who came up with terms for Anita Hill, like she was a little bit nutty, a little bit slutty. Brock was a real right-wing son of a bitch. Well, he had some kind of conversion in the 90s and late 90s, came out with a piece in Esquire and then wrote a book about the bad old days, which was just a couple of years previous, that he had been a right-wing hitman. So now he's working for the Clinton campaign, which I find just absolutely hysterical because he was one of the leading attackers when Clinton was heading for impeachment for lying about his whatever you want to call it with, what's her name? What was her name? You know what I mean. Never mind. The one that used to hug him at the rope line. Monica Lewinsky. Jeez. It's hard to keep all the bimbos straight. I don't mean the girls. I mean Clinton and the rest of these right-wing politicians who figure they can just grope and mess around with and get away with it. But anyway, I digress. So David Brock founded the super PAC that is one of the super PACs that is backing Clinton, providing money. And he's got his bloomers in a wad now because Bernie Sanders is using the Simon Garfunkel song, America. Simon and Garfunkel, but actually I think Art Garfunkel wrote most of it. And Sanders said that with that ad, they're trying to remind his supporters how far he has come since declaring his candidacy, and the ad is intended to motivate people to caucus for him on February 1st. No words were spoken other than the song lyrics, and Bernie Sanders is seen greeting voters in the campaign trail, first in small groups, then in gymnasiums, and finally at huge rallies. It's really a touching a positive ad for Bernie Sanders. Well, Brock told the Associated Press yesterday that ad presented a bizarre image of America focused on white voters. Go figure. Brock also said the ad was, quote, a significant slight to the Democratic base, end quote. Brock told the Associated Press also, quote, from this ad, it seems black lives don't matter much to Bernie Sanders, end quote. What the hell does that mean? So David Brock has gone from being a right-wing hitman to being a Hillary Clinton hitman, apparently. Yesterday, Michael Briggs, a spokesman for Bernie Sanders, dismissed Brock as a mudslinging, which he was, a mudslinging right-wing extremist, which he was. And today, after that little dust-up, Art Garfunkel had a statement to make about Sanders' use of his song, which I'll share with you when we come back. Stay with us. So the Clinton campaign sent out David Brock, who apparently is doing for the Clinton campaign what he did for the people who attacked her husband back in the 90s, only he is doing it with much more gusto because David Brock is still trying to ingratiate himself to the Clintons after what he put them through during the Clinton impeachment. And his latest attack is the use of the song America. Have you got that, Kathy? Bring it up. I'm going to play it in a second. Yeah, bring it up so we can play it in a moment. So Art Garfunkel issued a statement today explaining why he gave his approval to the Bernie Sanders campaign to use the song America in a new political ad. In a statement released through his publicist, Art Garfunkel said that, quote, he never wanted to gain an influence on the public through his songs and then use it for politics. He called it bait and switch. But he also explained how the song is meant to have universal resonance, while it's also relevant to current issues, including what is being talked about on the campaign trail. He cited xenophobia and said, quote, now I believe the moneyed interests have gone too far and have rigged the system. End quote. Sanders' campaign, of course, is focused on what Wall Street and the money managers are doing to us, plus the campaign finance corruption. And the ad started airing in Iowa and New Hampshire today. And Garfunkel said, quote, I wanted my arrangement to be urgent, reaching, yearning, shining, full of glory, full of my love for this country. Play a little bit of it. This is a song that has the Clinton campaign just absolutely crawling out of their skin. The Clinton campaign, I mean, how much of a stretch is it to suggest that the use of that song by Bernie Sanders means that Bernie Sanders doesn't like black people? Or not that, but that Bernie Sanders has no respect for black people. That, according to David Brock, Bernie Sanders feels that black lives don't matter. Now, what's going on here is very obvious. With Sanders taking away from Hillary Clinton enormous chunks of Democratic Party support, the Democratic voter support, what they're worried about is so-called people of color, other Democrats, that's all. But since we have to use the current term, I guess, in order to satisfy not politically correct, but as far as I'm concerned, politically incorrect use of the term people of color. So the Clinton campaign is shocked, I tell you, and at what has happened with the numbers. And they're afraid that Bernie Sanders is going to cut deeply into the African-American vote, that Hillary Clinton figures, as most Democrats have always figured, they have it locked up. And a lot of Democrats in the past did have it locked up for very good reasons. Because the Democratic Party, in its checkered history, and it's had a checkered history, but more recently, the Democratic Party of the two has been the party that was more interested in trying to find at least equality of opportunity or justice, far beyond any efforts made by the Republican Party, the fascist party. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that the Clinton campaign whoever, I saw the head of the Clinton campaign today, and I just about lost it. He was on Jose, what's his name's program, first one after Morning Morning Joe. What's his name? Jose Baradiaz. I forget his matrimony, his Bellart, Jose Bellart Diaz. And Bellart Diaz was interviewing Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. First of all, I couldn't believe he was so young. And secondly, he was just a goof. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy, but just goofy. And his answers were goofy. I mean, the slimy answers that all these politicians come up with. I think the only person who answers a question directly is Sanders. None of these people answer questions directly, certainly not the surrogates. I don't care if it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz or this freak this morning who runs the Clinton campaign, or even some of the people who work for Bernie Sanders. They just can't seem to answer a direct question with a direct answer. But this guy this morning who runs Clinton's campaign, Jesus, what a piece of work he was. So anyway, the effort. And Hillary Clinton is also knocking Bernie Sanders on Iran. On Iran. There was a big piece in the New York Times today, I hope I can get to tonight, about Hillary Clinton's money. $275,000 is what she charged to appear before the clients of Golden Tree Asset Management, which is one of the very Wall Street firms that just rips the American taxpayer, consumer, citizen to pieces. Here it is. Dan Roberts writing in The Guardian, attacks on Bernie Sanders by rival Democrats are likely by rival Democrats. Oh, come on, Dan. There's only one. That's Hillary Clinton. Anyway, the attacks are likely to turn increasingly to his record on the economy and foreign affairs, according to a new dossier seen by The Guardian that accuses Sanders of sympathizing with communists and, quote, not believing in capitalism, end quote. Bless your heart! Yes, not believing in capitalism. A ferocious war of words between Hillary Clinton and Sanders has erupted in recent days as polls showing the Vermont senator taking the lead among Democratic voters in both New Hampshire and Iowa. And those numbers have sent shockwaves through the party establishment. And prompted growing personal attacks. Yesterday, Sanders' aides accused David Brock, the guy I was just talking about, of mudslinging after Brock claimed Sanders was acting as if, quote, Black Lives didn't matter, end quote, in that new campaign ad with the Art Garfunkel song. But the attacks, according to The Guardian, are likely to intensify in the few days leading up to the Iowa caucus, according to a new document that delves into affiliations and statements made by Sanders dating back decades. This is the Oppo research, right? The dossier, prepared by opponents of Sanders and passed on to The Guardian by a source who would only agree to be identified as, quote, a Democrat, end quote, alleges that the dossier alleges that Sanders, quote, sympathized with the USSR during the Cold War, end quote, because he went on a trip there to visit a twinned city while he was mayor of Burlington. These sons of bitches, you think the Republicans will go after him? The Clinton campaign is going to try to bloody this man so badly. Anyway, according to The Guardian, similar so-called associations with communism in Cuba are cataloged alongside a list of quotes about countries ranging from China to Nicaragua in a way that supporters regard as bordering on the McCarthyite rather than fairly reflecting his views. I don't think anybody should be the least bit surprised that the Clinton campaign is going to do this, because Sanders is doing the unthinkable. He's taking Clinton on head on and exposing her as the right-wing Republican that she is and always has been. I don't give a goddamn what this woman says. She has a record. She has a record as a part of the Clinton administration, unpaid, when Bill Clinton was president. She has a record as a senator. She has a record as Secretary of State, and it's not a good record. We'll be right back.